One of the things that I'm a very big fan of as far as sport is concerned is how you translate sport onto life. This is one of the reasons I'm a big fan of Colin Cowherd. Despite the fact that he knows nothing about the Kansas City Chiefs, he has interesting takes as far as translating life onto sport and sport onto life. One of the things that I've tried to learn from Brett Veach and the sustained success of the Kansas City Chiefs is that to get good at something, you start at the top level. You start with your starters. In football, you replace the quarterback with someone like Patrick Mahomes, and all of a sudden you're going to be very, very good. You replace your very bad wide receivers with better wide receivers, you will be better. But one of the ways that you sustain success is not from the top down, but the bottom up. And we have seen Brett Veach constantly churn the bottom of the 53-man roster again and again and again over his years as the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs. That is interesting to me. And guys, he doesn't stop. The Kansas City Chiefs recently invited 74 players to their rookie minicamp. One of those players was a man named JAARON HAYEK, a wide receiver from Villanova. He was a minicamp invite, the same way that Echo Boydo had been last year. He was not a signed UDFA. However, after the rookie minicamp, the Kansas City Chiefs decided to cut Reggie Brown from James Madison, a wide receiver that was not necessarily a very fast wide receiver, but had been an excruciating deep threat at the college level. I say excruciating because he just kind of tore the soul out of many defensive coordinators. And honestly, I was kind of ready for Reggie Brown to be the preseason training camp sweetheart wide receiver that seems to always pop up in Kansas City. So now, I say that because Reggie Brown really had some football skills. Apparently, not enough. Reggie Brown was a signed UDFA. JAARON HAYEK was not. The Kansas City Chiefs hosted rookie minicamp, cut Reggie Brown, and signed JAARON HAYEK. Now, what does this mean? Well, in this video, I will attempt to answer those questions. We will have a who portion where I answer the question, who is JAARON HAYEK? Then a strengths and weaknesses portion of this video where we talk about the things that he is good at, the things that he is not good at, and then we will have an analysis portion of this video. But I want to get this out there right now. When you start watching this guy on tape, he's someone who is going to tear at your heartstrings because Nico Remigio might be in trouble. And, guys, I'm going to say it, maybe Sky Moore isn't in trouble, but I'm not going to say he isn't. The things that JAARON HAYEK is doing at Villanova, albeit, but the things that he's doing on the field are kind of the things that Sky Moore was brought in to do, and the things that he's doing on the field, maybe he's not as fast as Sky Moore, but effectiveness is one of the strengths of JAARON HAYEK's game as opposed to straight line speed. So, who is JAARON HAYEK? Well, until this signing was made, you could have had me if you asked that question. I did not know. Well, it turns out that the young man from Wayne, New Jersey by way of Villanova, or is it the other? It's from Villanova by way of Wayne, New Jersey, I always get that wrong, is 6'1" and 200 pounds. Not exceptional size for a wide receiver, but right in the range of where you would need to be. He ran a 4.59 40-yard dash. Not good. But I swear there was another wide receiver that I've covered this offseason who ran a 4.59. Who was it? Was it a wide receiver who was in the draft? No. Was it a wide receiver already on the Kansas City Chiefs? No. In fact, Now that I remember, it's a wide receiver that isn't on any team. Hunter Renfrow ran a 4.59 40-yard dash, and that's who he might remind you a little bit of on film. But to get through this, he had a 35.5-inch vertical leap. Hunter Renfrow had a 35, by the way. He did 20 reps on the bench press. Hunter Renfrow only did 7. But none of those are the things for which Hunter Renfrow is known. Hunter Renfrow is known as not really a precise route runner, but someone who is effective with his route running. And the closest you get to that in these drills is the short shuttle and the three-cone drill. Here, JAARON HAYEK had a 6.90 three-cone drill compared to the 6.80, 1/10 of a second difference from Hunter Renfrow. JAARON HAYEK had a 4.25 short shuttle compared to the 4.19 short shuttle by Hunter Renfrow. And just for what it's worth, Hunter Renfrow is 5'10 1/4 inches tall and 184 pounds. But I mentioned a different wide receiver earlier, a wide receiver that the Kansas City Chiefs do have, that wide receiver being, of course, Nico Remigio, who caught everyone's attention last year in training camp because he was making so many grabs. He was such a reliable receiver, both with his hands and his ability to get open. Just comparing these to the numbers you have on your screen right now, Nico Remigio is 5'9", much shorter than the 6'1" by JAARON HAYEK. Nico Remigio was 187 pounds. The 13-pound edge goes to JAARON HAYEK. Nico Remigio ran a 4.56 40-yard dash, slightly 3/100ths of a second better than JAARON HAYEK. Nico Remigio had a 36-inch vertical leap, a half-inch better than JAARON HAYEK. Nico Remigio did 19 bench press reps, a feisty little guy that he is, one worse than JAARON HAYEK. Nico Remigio ended up doing the 20-yard short shuttle in 4.33 seconds compared to the 4.25 by JAARON HAYEK. His three-cone drill, Nico Remigio's, was a 7.20 compared to the 6.90 put up by JAARON HAYEK. So by his testing numbers, JAARON HAYEK, his movement skills, JAARON HAYEK is somewhere between Hunter Renfrow and Nico Remigio. But he is much bigger than either of those guys. And just for frame of reference, that three-cone drill would have been tied for 5th among wide receivers at the Combine, tied for 5th with Troy Franklin. The 4 wide receivers above him would have been Ricky Pearsall, Luke McCaffrey, Isaiah Williams, and Rome Odunze. And the 20-yard short shuttle would have been tied for 7th, or not tied for 7th, would have been 7th outright. The wide receivers who would have been above him, Jalen McMillan, Anthony Gould, Johnny Wilson somehow, I guess he just stuck his legs out there and crossed them over the line, Ricky Pearsall, Rome Odunze, and Luke McCaffrey. Now, the tale of his stats is an interesting one. I have his final 3 seasons in college listed on the screen there, but he played 5 years of college football. His freshman season was just as good as his 2021 season. Maybe not the average, but his freshman season, he had 47 receptions, 670 yards, and 8 touchdowns. His sophomore year, he dipped to 12 receptions, 136 yards, 0 touchdowns. I am assuming that maybe there were injuries involved, though I could not find anything about that. In 2021, 40 receptions, 671 yards, and 9 touchdowns. In 2022, 36 receptions, 810 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And then in 2023, 35 receptions, 457 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's 29 touchdowns at the college level. Now, as for his strengths and weaknesses, the number one strength that I think he has is his route running ability. Now, I need to start this off with a bit of a mea culpa. Let me say I'm sorry. I'm still learning. When Sky Moore was drafted, I lauded his route running ability. I saw all of the stutter steps, all of the arm pumping. He did that thing where he'd get his shoulder pads shaking. He'd put his helmet one direction and then run the other. It surprised me. It confused me. I didn't know what was going on, and I made the wrong call. It turns out in the NFL, none of that stuff matters. Because if it did, Sky Moore would have had more than 500 receiving yards over the course of 2 NFL seasons. But JAARON Hayek does not depend on any of that. Here's what JAARON Hayek does, and it's something that I've learned in retrospect to look for a little bit more. This is what guys like Hunter Renfrow do. This is what guys, I think, like Nico Remigio, if he learned to do it, would be very effective at doing. It's not about crossing a cornerback's feet. It's not a crossover like Allen Iverson. What it is turning his hips. What JAARON Hayek has been very good at doing at the college level, okay, so maybe the cornerback's faster than you because you run a 4.59 40. Maybe that guy runs a 4.4 flat. That means he's perfectly comfortable in very tight coverage. He's going to stick right on you if you're JAARON Hayek. The only hope you have is to turn him around. The moment you make him flip his hips the wrong direction, all of a sudden you have planted and you're going in the right direction. Now, again, easier said than done at the NFL level. But in the NFL, those crafty guys who have a 3.5-yard average reception, but they get you 1 million first downs per season, that's what they do. Unfortunately, I guess maybe I can't say unfortunately when I'm talking about someone's strengths. Ironically, perhaps, one of the other things that JAARON Hayek is very good at is tracking the ball downfield. It's really interesting. If you go frame by frame on some of his deep receptions, he will break off his route almost instantaneous with the quarterback's release and end up catching the ball in stride. And guys, that's not accidental, that's skill. Do I see him catching a whole lot of 50-yard go routes in the NFL with a 4.59 40-yard dash? No, not really. I really don't. But it's important to remember that he's also a guy who is 6'1", 200 pounds. He has the size to be able to go and do that. And the last thing here that I put on his strengths is that he is fluid. And really, the most fluid that he is catching the ball in stride. And that sounds like a silly thing. It sounds like something you see every Sunday, but no, you really don't. Pay attention how many guys stop their feet the moment they catch the football. Pay attention to how many guys jump in the air in order to make a catch, even if they definitely could have made that catch while on the ground. And this, catching the ball in stride, is one of the things that helps a guy appear faster than he is. Not giving the defender that half-step chance to catch up with you while you break stride in order to make the catch can be the difference between a 20-yard play and being tackled nearly immediately. Now, the number one negative here is obviously that 40-yard dash, and I know I used the Hunter Renfrow example just earlier in this video to defend JAARON Hayek's game, but look, if Hunter Renfrow ran a 4.3 40, he'd be a whole lot better. Obviously, it is not a career-ending type of slow, but you hope for a wide receiver to be faster than that. Number two, competition. You just don't know. Now, for some reason, the Kansas City Chiefs in this rookie minicamp were obsessed with Villanova. But let me read you the list of characters involved in the 2023 football schedule for Villanova. On September 2nd, they played Lehigh. On September 9th, they played Colgate. I could find no word on whether or not Max Fresh was starting that game. They played UCF for the highlight of their season. Then they played Rhode Island, Villanova, I got confused, Albany, North Carolina A&T. Then they shut out Elon. Famously, Mr. Musk did not give an interview after the game. They played Stony Brook. They played New Hampshire. And on November 11th, they played Towson. On November 18th, they played Delaware. I wonder if Brett Veach was present for that game. And they played Youngstown State in December, along with San Diego State. Their fifth game of this coming 2024 season is against a team called LIU, Long Island University, a school that is so bereft of fame, a school that is so anonymous, not even Google knows what their emblem looks like, unless their emblem really is just a small white shield. But as they are a blue and yellow school with a shark logo, I highly doubt that to be the case. And the number 3 negative here is that he doesn't have a whole lot of production even at a smaller level of school. Now, so some of this, I learned this when I was still in middle school. I was a very big fan of a guy named Brian Shea. He set the world on fire at Emporia State with a school record, NCAA record, 6,958 career rushing yards, 9,301 all-purpose yards, 88 total touchdowns, 81 rushing touchdowns, 544 total points, etc. And while he was a practice squad member of the Kansas City Chiefs and played for the Berlin Thunder and later the Orlando Rage in the XFL, he never did anything in the NFL. Sometimes production at these smaller level schools doesn't mean a whole lot, whether it is or is not present. So what do I think about JAARON HAYEK? I think he is likely to be a camp darling, the camp darling that Reggie Brown ended up not being. He's very good at a lot of things, very good tracking the ball, very good at the scramble drill, very good route runner, very good at manipulating the corner, very good at catching on the move. He's a pretty good blocker. He's very good at finding the hole in a zone defense. He's good at all of these things. I think he's a guy who could make a lot of catches for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if it will be during the 2024 season. It strikes me that someone coming up from that level of football is likely to have some seasoning put on top of things. And that's not the worst thing in the world. Look, Cornell Powell is now drawing pension strictly from being a practice squad member of the Kansas City Chiefs. JAARON HAYEK, however, does have the type of build to be an effective special teamer as well. Maybe he's not blazing fast, but he's a solid guy. He does not shy away from contact. And guys, sometimes something hits you in real time. I am just becoming aware of the fact that I think I've done all of these videos and talked about Xavier Worthy, talked about guys in the receiving game. I think I've done a lot of this preseason coverage, and I don't know how often I've actually mentioned Justin Watson. JAARON HAYEK is a solidly built wide receiver like Justin Watson who could really... Wow, I can't believe I have completely blanked that Justin Watson is a real human being. Anyway, special teams are a way that a guy like JAARON HAYEK can make his way in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs, however, have lots and lots of defensive backs and linebackers who are going to be better at making tackles than a wide receiver from Villanova. And really, this year, it's going to be the numbers crunch that gets in the way for anyone trying to jump up from the practice squad, trying to make their way from UDFA to 53-man roster. And until we get to training camp and understand just what this guy is able to do against NFL-level corners, it's going to be difficult to understand what it is that JAARON HAYEK could be expected to do this season and how much practice squad development would actually help him. Now, there may or may not be additional sort of drama with Rashee Rice popping up. If this additional drama with Rashee Rice is popping up, I fully expect Rashee Rice to not be a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, right now, I don't know anything. Maybe this is just rumor and hearsay. If it is real, that is an awful lot of drama for one offseason, especially when it's your first offseason. So the numbers crunch might not be as extreme as one would otherwise hope. That's all I have for this episode. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And I hope to have you back for the next one.